Hello there, I'm Frames Janko, and today we're going to talk about whether or not you should get Stadia. Now, something that makes this both difficult and kind of optimistic is that this review could be completely useless in anywhere from 3 to 6 months. What I mean by that is that the infrastructure that Stadia is built on is constantly upgrading and being optimized for different games and adding new features, meaning that something I say today could literally change while I'm in the middle of editing or uploading this, and it would make this sort of an obsolete review, which is why realistically I should just be reviewing Stadia every couple of months. Hey, this is Future Frames. Funny enough, while I was recording this, I said that what I'm saying in the video could become irrelevant as soon as while I'm editing or uploading. And while I was editing the video and letting it render out so I could upload it, Stadia announced that if you pre-order Cyberpunk 2077 before the 18th, I believe it said, I'll put the actual date right here, you get Stadia Premier Edition on them, so the controller, the Chromecast, and I think even a little bit of Pro. I'm glad that I said, hey, at any point this could be upgraded and render what I'm saying pointless even while I'm doing this. However, I did not expect to be that right, so I'm also going to say, and also, I'm going to get really shredded abs. It could happen while I'm uploading this. Let's see if I can go 2 for 2. Unlikely. So yeah, if you want to play Cyberpunk 2077 at max settings and a really quick loading platform, and like I say in the rest of this video, the internet can cut out where I live because it's an old creepy house, but I still play the bejesus out of Stadia because it works so well regardless. It's a really good excuse to buy it. So now I'll hand this back to my past self to finish saying what he was saying. But this marks the 1-year anniversary since the launch of the whole shebang, since Stadia first had that awkward crawl into the public eye. And since then it's kind of learned to walk a little bit better. And there's some really cool things coming around the corner that should kind of get your interest going. So what type of person should be getting Stadia? Well, first of all, you need to be someone who has a decent internet setup. If you go to like Google's webpage and you go to the Stadia website, and there's all types of ways for it to do like a speed test, let you know if your internet connection is strong enough, if your country is supported in this. It's rolling out to more all the time. And that's the first thing you should check. Now, for the next, 6 months or so, I'm still going to buy a lot of stuff on console. Mostly because the house that my wife and I live in right now was, I kid you not, going to be demolished by the company that owns it. And then they were like, well, let's just see if anyone wants to rent it out. And then we just wanted to escape the horrible apartment we were in. So, it's not caving in around us, but the connections to things like the internet, things are faulty in this whole thing. It's like sitting in an old pirate ship. It creaks, it moans, it's probably haunted. I think there's like a weird girl in a white dress that's gonna come out of my TV screen tonight. It's a lot. But if you're living in a fairly modern place or a city with great internet infrastructure, it's definitely something worth checking out. A lot of people are hesitant to get into the Stadia sort of sandbox to play with because you always have to be connected online. However, recently I had something happen where someone stole my identity, and so my debit card got shut down and my bank account was on hold. And in that time, a lot of my Xbox Live and stuff lapsed just because I was waiting for a new card to come in the mail. And I was shocked by how many games that aren't even based in online play that I was unable to access or access the full features of because I wasn't connected to Live or I wasn't connected to the internet. And that kind of got me thinking, yeah, Stadia technically exists on the internet, but think about the number of games and features that your console has that you have trouble launching. I know that on the PlayStation, there are some games you can't even launch until it connects and checks online to make sure you're allowed to play that game. So if you took your console with you, say to visit friends or family somewhere, or you're staying in a hotel, doing a road trip, what have you, if you don't have the internet connection that you're used to, there's a chance that some of your sports games and even RPGs and won't have the features or the ability to even be played. So when you think about that, the difference between that and Stadia isn't that different. And both Xbox and the PlayStation, with the PlayStation 5 Slim and the Xbox One Series S, they have all digital versions, which means there's no disc drive, which to me means that I can't validate that as me just buying an upgraded DVD player whenever I explain it to my wife. But it kind of bridges that gap in between console and all digital device that you don't even own. Now, one of the reasons that having Stadia over a console is great is because it's constantly improving. Right now, a lot of Ubisoft's titles, and Ubisoft is really good about adding a lot of their new and even slightly older games to the Stadia catalog. They're very forward focused on this, as well as looking at Amazon's cloud gaming service called Luna, which I have not tried. And their games are locked at roughly 30 frames per second, and they look kind of like the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 versions of the games right now, just with much faster loading times and maybe slightly better frame rate. But right now they're locked at 30 on average, which is a real letdown to people who thought they were getting a more next-gen experience. However, that doesn't mean that's how it's going to be. In the next weeks or months or even days, Stadia could roll out some type of update that makes it where suddenly Assassin's Creed Valhalla runs at 60 frames, or where the textures are turned up a notch. It's literally being optimized to run on like a super nice gaming PC. A gaming PC that is constantly getting new parts and being upgraded at no additional cost to you, which is super duper nice. Because if you've ever tried to build a gaming PC, it's a pain. And if you've ever built one and had to keep it relevant, it's also a pain. It's a whole mess that you don't even have to worry about. And it's wild that our cell phones, like what you're watching this on probably, statistically you're taking a poop or sitting in your bedroom on a laptop or on a cell phone, and those things can run Stadia, which is pretty bananas when you think about it. Like, I could be playing Cyberpunk 2077 at launch looking real nice and crisp, and I feel like that's going to look great because the videos that CD Projekt Red showed of it playing on the now past gen, which is Xbox One, still looked incredible, and Stadia has yet to look worse than the console version on pretty much anything. So that's at least what we're probably guaranteed to have, and we could see it upgraded almost certainly over time, which is nifty. And for playing games like Destiny, which I love, I prefer playing it on Stadia because the load times are so much faster than it is on console. And another great thing, which coattails into Destiny, is that it's now free to play on Stadia as well. And I know it was free to play everywhere, but it wasn't on Stadia. And people didn't think it was going to be on cloud-based services because they sort of make their money on you getting, the Stadia Pro. And that's the one that kicks you up from 1080p to like 4K, high dynamic range. You can, get all these extra upgrades and features. But now you don't have to pay anything. You can just pick up your phone, or if you're someone who has YouTube Premium, you might have even been able to get a free version of the Stadia Premier Edition, which is the Chromecast and the white controller, which I don't have here because it's my wife's controller and she probably has it somewhere on her dresser. My mint or wasabi one's over there by Vegeta. What up, Vegeta? So that's another experience, and it's getting a ton of new people, which means all of the games on the Stadia platform are now getting wider and wider player bases, and a lot of them were already cross-platform anyway, so you could play them with other people regardless. It's one of those things where as long as your internet is strong, it's great. And if you're on a budget, that's a really big reason to get into it. If you're on a budget, if you have good internet, or if you're looking to get into streaming in the future, having a game system that can run the game you want, some type of recording of that to either keep yourself or to stream to Twitch or YouTube as you please, that can be a lot to work out. But Stadia already has a feature about that in the works that's going to come out sometime. And yeah, it's sort of a waiting game, so that's one that you should keep on the back burner. But at the same time, like, a game that on average might give you better frames per second, that is much cheaper to run on anything. Like, you, again, could be at a hotel or staying at a friend's house, open up their laptop and be playing your games there to show them your high score, or to let them play a game that you enjoy. Family Share just came online as well for Stadia, which means that anyone within your Google Family Group, which you can set up, can play your games, which is super great. So you don't have to buy the same game for everyone in your family. And that's going to be a big deal for me and my wife, My wife likes to play games, but not nearly as much as me, so now she'll have a way to play all these games that I got with my Stadia Pro or that I bought outright, and she doesn't have to worry about also having Stadia Pro because she doesn't play it that much, so she doesn't need the subscription really. She just wants to play 1 or 2 games on lunch or whenever she gets off her shift at work. So it really works out that way. Also, they've just added messaging. They're improving the Stadia profile user. They're making it easier to interact with friends on that and to build your friends group, because for the first time in a long time, you have way more people on the platform. So the need to have friends that you can talk to and the ease of getting them into your game and talking with them is improving vastly, which is great. And you look at games like Dead by Daylight, which now allow viewers to choose if you'll be the killer or a survivor. And they're just all these new games that are implementing features like, Baldur's Gate 3, which you can have people vote on the choices you make in the game, which is crazy. And that's going to be a big thing I can see with streamers, because I remember seeing an interview maybe a year, 2 years ago with a streamer where he said that he thinks the future of gaming is going to be everyone playing online and everyone being able to interact with the stream. It sounded really silly back then, but now we actually have a version of that that's only going to become more prevalent. And I can imagine that people who already enjoy watching streamers, if you've seen the metrics on Twitch, you know that that's a huge audience of people. If you get in on the ground floor of doing that with Stadia, if you just have a device already that can run Stadia, which isn't very difficult, but also stream it somewhere, you're already in really good working order to make yourself a streamer. And if you want to be noticed, you either need to be the first, the best, or different. And this is a good time to get in on the first wave of Stadia. And of course, people will always say, oh, Stadia, that's not going to last. Look at all these things that Google has killed off. Well, Google also just spent millions of dollars to optimize Resident Evil games to work on Stadia. They're getting it to work. You see, a lot of games that already work for the PC, they run on the Windows platform. But if Stadia ran on that, that means they'd have to pay some money for every game to Windows, which is their direct competitor with Xbox and their xCloud. So they run on Linux, which means that that's really the only thing the developers need to initially deal with. It's like building a game for PC, but it's building it to run on a different operating system. And I believe that what it's called is the Blade, or Blades is what they're calling their infrastructure, and Blade 2, not to be confused with the Wesley Snipes films, is apparently in the works and around the corner to some degree. That's what fan speculation is. Google kind of sucks at telling us what they're doing with Stadia, and that's kind of the biggest kryptonite with them, is they're horrible at at communication. Excuse Roxy, she's running around with her stuffed squirrels. They're her favorite toy. It's just, there's a lot of reasons to be excited, but there's some really basic components that Google is still figuring out how to do as a game service provider, which is a new sector for them to even be part of. So there's going to be some growing pains, but within the year, they've pretty much lived up to 90% of the things they said they would be able to do. The only thing they haven't really achieved is that ability to stream effortlessly from Stadia itself. So you will be playing, there won't be lag between you and someone else, because it won't be streaming from your device, it'll be streaming from the gaming PC rig setup server farm that Stadia is running off of in some Google headquarters somewhere directly to YouTube, which I'm sure will just boost YouTube's video metrics, and they're really big about making sure that everyone's on some type of Google platform. And again, you don't put that much money into the Resident Evil franchise or getting things optimized for your platform if you don't plan to be here for a while. And I know they're going to be here because not only are the previous games being added, like Resident Evil 7, and it looks like remakes of 2 and 3, and confirmed through leaks, Resident Evil Village, which is going to be a next-gen, or I guess technically current-gen, exclusive for the Xbox Series X and S or PlayStation 5 or really nice gaming PCs. But now you could be playing Resident Evil Village on your cell phone when it launches, which is pretty bananas. And again, I think Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a great way for people to try this out. Not everyone's PC is going to be able to handle the insanity of what you're seeing, and not a lot of people are going to want to use their old console for that. Although, from my opinion, I think if we can truly trust what CD Projekt Red showed as the comparison between the Series X and the One X, I think the past gen, which I regret calling it that because it's not readily available for everyone yet, so it still feels like we're in a transitional period where that's still next gen because it isn't a platform that can be readily bought at the store. It's out of stock quite frequently. So I think until maybe January or February, I won't truly consider PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S current gen, just because it won't have fully taken the place of what you would do to go buy one of the past gen consoles. So I don't know if that will push people, but I think people who want to know that they're playing the coolest, crispest, best rendered RTX on beautiful version of Keanu Reeves in a cyberpunk dystopia, there's a good chance you're going to hop onto Stadia, because you can literally take Google surveys, or if you have an Android phone, you get points buying things on the Google Play Store, and you can use that to pay for your subscription for Stadia Pro. So you're already getting like a free upgrade for all this stuff and all these extra games, which not a lot of people seem to know that. And if you look online, the way people perceive Stadia is shifting pretty heavily. I mean, it's a weird time, and not everyone has a lot of money right now. So what would you rather do? Spend $500 to $400 on a new console, plus the games you're gonna get, waiting for updates, managing storage, or just buy the game outright and play it on your laptop wherever you want? It's certainly simpler that way. And if you don't live in the sticks, like me, or in a basically haunted house, it's a really solid choice to just go ahead and hop in. And again, you can play any game on Stadia, buy it, and if you don't like it within 2 hours, you can return it and get your money back. That's not something that's available on consoles. When you buy it, you're with it. You're playing it now. So that's a really neat feature that, weirdly enough, just doesn't seem to be adopted by that many other platforms. It seems like a pretty basic thing you'd expect people to implement, but it hasn't been yet. So, yeah, Stadia is really on the uptick. Do they need better PR? Yes, because they are not communicating with people what the next steps they're taking are. However, they are most definitely in this for the long haul, so you don't have to worry about being shanghaied, having bought all these peripherals, and losing out. In fact, if you just have a Chromecast, you can use your Xbox or PlayStation controller and you're fine. You can use Xbox adaptive controllers if you have disabilities or injuries to play the games that you want on Stadia. You can use mouse and keyboard, and that's pretty awesome. You don't have to buy a single Google product to use the Google product Stadia. And it would have been really easy for them to force people to buy their crap. I mean, I did eventually, because I kind of wanted to know if their controller was good or not, and I wanted another Chromecast, if I'm being entirely honest. So, I guess really, I can't tell you if you should get it. I'm glad that I have it. It's something really cool that I get to use, but when I go visit family that lives even further in the middle of nowhere, it's a lot harder to play that because they're still getting better internet out there. So as long as you're in a civilized slice of the world, as long as you don't live in a haunted house, it's definitely worth looking into. And if you're on a budget, it's a great option to play the games that you like. And I can honestly say that if you get into this whole infrastructure of Stadia, you're not going to be left out in the cold anytime soon because they've abandoned you. They have worked way too hard. They have too many games already announced on their way. They're not going to jump ship. They're only going to get better. I hope this has been informative for you. You can always check out the Google Stadia website, or if you want, oddly enough, better information, you can go check out the Google Stadia subreddit on Reddit and ask questions, because there's a bunch of really polite people. I've done videos before about other pros and cons to all of it, and those things will inevitably shift because, again, the platform is evolving all the time. Sometimes you'll just fire up a game and realize that the frame rate is better, or that the draw distance is improved, or that the graphical fidelity somehow seems sharper, and it's strange. And I kind of wish that they would tell you as you load into a game, hey, we updated X, Y, and Z. But it's also kind of like a surprise every time you load in, whether or not the game will have suddenly improved and gotten better looking. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's just one of the things of being an adult. Simple things kind of make me chuckle and bring a smile to my face, but it's kind of nice to be surprised every now and then by some good news that you didn't expect. So I hope this has helped you in your decision-making process. You can try it out for a month for free regardless, and I think at that point you can draw your own critical conclusions as to whether or not it works on your internet, if it works on your devices, and if it works for what you want to do with video gaming. A lot of games are doing cross-platform progress, so if you're getting rid of a console because you no longer use it that much, you can still play those games cheaper without feeling like you've given up all those hours you've sunken into it, which is a nifty little feature that might affect a few of you or a lot of you. It's hard to say. Anyway, I hope this has helped. It's, again, an ever-evolving infrastructure, so as it changes and as new features and announcements come out, I'll probably try to cover those. There's so many small announcements that I try not to just hit you with a bunch of clickbait. I want to give you meaningful content because I don't want to waste your time, because you could be doing literally anything else. So I appreciate you spending the time to learn this stuff. I hope that this has helped you, and have a great day. Stay safe, stay sane. I appreciate you being here. You've been a great audience. I've been an okay host, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.